This is the 11mm f1.8 lens from Youngnuo. I've loved using this lens over the past couple months, and after doing some testing, I honestly think this is a really awesome budget lens for filmmakers and photographers who are looking to enter into the more wide-angle lens game. I've been using this lens a lot lately with my Sony ZV-E10 right here. I've used this a lot for vlogging and a lot of social media content or just casual B-roll capture in my studio. I've loved using this pair. They go really well together, and it's a very affordable option. The lens, as you can tell, is super small. It's very lightweight and easy to carry around. This really is not going to add a ton of bulk to your camera, although the build quality actually feels pretty good. It definitely feels like more of an all-metal build construction with, you know, some more plastic elements for like the dials and such. But it feels really rugged. It feels like you could drop this thing and it actually is going to survive a fall, unlike a lot of the more plastic lenses that come around this price range, which, speaking of the price range, it comes in at $261 for just the lens itself. But you also have the option to include, which is one of the coolest features about this lens, is they have a wireless focus control unit right here. This is the BRL1. This literally allows you to focus the lens as well as change the lens aperture via this remote control right here. See this thing? Look at this thing. This thing is so cool. We'll talk about that in just a minute because there are some pros and cons. But as far as that price point, $261 for this lens, I think that's an outstanding price point and definitely worth the money. Image quality looks very solid. Everything you're seeing on the screen was shot with the Sony ZV-E10 because I really just like this pair together. It goes really well together. So I've used this in a ton of vlogging scenarios, going out with my family, shooting some vlog content, even a little bit of contracting and client work I've used this for, and the lens just performs really well. Obviously, it's not the sharpest lens that I've ever used, but I actually like the way it looks. Another reason why I always pair it with my ZV-E10 is because this is an aps-c size lens. So this is not really going to work for your full frame cameras. However, what I did find is that when you put it on a full frame camera, even if you don't put the full frame camera into crop mode, you do get a massive vignette, but it looks otherworldly. I mean, it's just a really interesting and neat look. So you could use this for creative purposes on a full frame lens and not even push it into crop mode, but you would need to put the full frame camera into crop mode if you didn't want that massive vignetting. Something else I tested out with this lens is this Freewell M2 system, a really cool lens filter kit. Basically, they have a bunch of different ND options and UV options, and it's just a really cool travel kit. And I've paired this with my Youngnuo lens and my ZV-E10 and went out and shot a bunch of vlog content, and I needed that ND filter outside because of this lens 1.8 aperture. I wanted to keep it at that 1.8 value because I love the depth of field that that aperture value creates, but I needed to use some of these ND filters in order to get correct exposure, right? So this is the ND8, and if I was a little bit overexposed right now, I could put this ND filter over my camera lens, which is what I had to do with this when I was vlogging outdoors. It worked flawlessly. So I highly recommend this Freewell M2 kit as well if you need a high quality lens system. And thanks to Freewell for sending this out for testing and review. This is not a sponsored product, but they did send it to me for testing because I wanted to use it for some of these YouTube reviews. Couple more things to touch on. Autofocus performance was actually really good. I'm always surprised at these third-party lens manufacturers who are able to produce really solid autofocus performance out of their cheaper lens options. With this lens, you also get a really cool minimum focusing distance. You can really get your lens very close to the subject that you're trying to focus on. So if you're wanting to do more macro looking shots where your camera is really close to your subjects, you can do this, and it provides a really cool and unique feel because of that 11mm focal length as well. I also love that you get a function button on the lens that you can map to different functions in your Sony cameras. So this allows you the option to just perform a variety of functions via the lens instead of having to use a mappable button on the back of the camera. I always love when lenses have a function button, and this lens does. Okay, now let's talk about this wireless focus control unit. I think this thing is super interesting. I love the idea of it, and I think in practice, it actually works okay, but there are a few cons here that I want to talk about with the wireless focus unit. First of all, the ease of use of getting this thing set up for the first time, it wasn't easy at all, okay? I had to watch a tutorial from them. At first, you know, I'm a pretty tech savvy guy, and I thought I'd be able to figure this out. I was not able to figure this out on my own, how to get this paired to my camera. But thankfully, after a couple emails back and forth with Youngnuo, they sent me a tutorial video about how to sync this to the lens and get it all talking to each other. And I was able to finally get this working with how it was intended to work. And it's actually kind of cool. The wireless focus unit lets you control aperture, so you can stop down or stop up your aperture to higher or lower f-stop values, which I think is a cool feature. It's probably not something I would use a ton because I tend to like to lock in my aperture before I start recording. Now, this could be good for photographers if your exposure changes and you're trying to set up your camera remotely and trigger it remotely. You can also adjust your aperture, which is really cool. But the thing that I would use it most for is for focus. This is really neat to be able to dial in your focus and perform manual focus moves remotely from the camera. So you can step back far away and use this little twisty dial, and that will change your focus. I think this is a really cool feature, and at the time of recording this video, for only an additional $21 to add to your lens kit, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you should just get it and see if it's something that you do use, because I think it is really unique, and it's not something that I've seen in any other lens that I've used. All in all, I think this lens is really solid for the price point. It's a good build quality, you get good image performance with the option to add that wireless focus and aperture control is really cool. And if you're on the hunt for a quality but affordable 11mm lens for the aps-c system, I think this is a great option in 2024. Thanks so much for taking time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out some more videos right here on this channel. Thanks so much, guys. Much love.